was a rough day watching the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. I watched a good 8 hours or something. So I've decided I think the deeper meaning of why I was upset by that guy with herpes who pushed me down and pinned me down and rubbed his penis on me through his clothes, I think the deeper meaning is that he has some possibly undiagnosed, maybe unknown to himself problem, which I wrote his attorney Celia Howes about. I had hinted to the police detective in some of my written paperwork that I thought maybe he had some kind of autism spectrum related Asperger's type syndrome. Something that causes him not to understand, not to comprehend, but I also think he possibly has frotteurism, do they call it paraphilic? Oh, I'm reading about it. It's like the sexual proclivity to rub yourself on someone who is non-consenting and somehow finding interest in that. Telling off the DA in an email wasn't, not the DA, no, I wouldn't tell the DA's victims assistants. I was like, why don't you just call yourself victims blaming this office or something? She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, are you really though? You just kind of treat humans like rubber stamp. Oh, I've just said that I think Brett Kavanaugh has the integrity of a marshmallow. And 2 people have retweeted me. So 9 people retweeted me. We could be like the Supreme Court of Twitter. No, I think it's very sad that this person attacked me. It's very, 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 very sad. Yeah, I think he has some kind of sex disorder, impulse control, dry drunk, power rush. He was power rushing when he attacked me because his face was like, and it was strange. Why would a man physically attack a woman like that? And then go about his day trying to be Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. And why would he admit to wrestling or tussling? Did he hire the lawyer after that or before that? Because she couldn't have been too pleased with that. That he tried to explain his sexual assault as a wrestling, just sudden impromptu wrestling. But you're this man, and you're also the same man that has repeatedly non-consensually groped this woman who's trying to get away with you and decide whether or not to call the cops. So then when you just suddenly decide to wrestle her or tussle her, and you just happen to be 6'6" and likely more than 200 pounds, and you just want to pin her down and crush her on a 4-point hold when she's asked you to leave and told you remind her of other abusers, she's not into you, you're not her type, she's dating someone else, she's a lesbian, and her grandpa works for the CIA. Yes, that's definitely the time to do the pin down. And I think ultimately I just completely hurt his feelings. They just kind of just wanted to be friends, or, not really friends after you're violent, but so it's just kind of like that was all that was left. He was at his little end game of violence. And I remember thinking, oh, this is so weak. He's a weak person. Why is he so eager to be violent? And he doesn't even know who he's attacking, right? I barely know him. It was almost as if I could see the whole future flash before my eyes, where I'm like, but wait a minute, dude, I'm Mary Ng. I'll probably blow this up all over the internet. Dude, do you know what you just did? I think saying that the Kavanaugh thing is like poetic justice is poetry. I mean, one of my first ways of dealing with this was poetry. Well, my very first way of dealing with it was dance. Because dance is ultimately a martial art towards self-defense, and maybe I wasn't defensive enough. That's how I blame myself. The extreme violence happened extremely quickly, and it was extremely overpowering. I also think of it in star signs. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're a Cancer, right? So you're emotional and watery. So your water's trying to put out my fire because I'm a Leo. I get that. Okay, congrats, you did it. Okay, you put out my fire, ruined my year, ruined my July 4th, ruined the next July 4th, and then admitted doing it and is still getting away with it. Admitted you wrestled me, admitted you tussled me, and you actually even have a penis attached to your body that was being pressed on me while you wrestled me, which would technically actually be a sex abuse if not an attempted rape or an outercourse or a frotteurism, as the French police called this strange. Let's look it up. Paraphilia? I think that's what they're calling it. What is... Oh, gosh. Poor George doesn't want to be in this video, I know. Here we go. Frotteurism. Paraphilic interest in rubbing, usually one's pelvic area or erect penis, against a non-consenting person for sexual pleasure. The term frotteur, originally meaning floor polisher, entered police jargon around 1882. Frottage derives from the French verb frotter, meaning to rub. Frotteuristic acts were interpreted as a sign of a psychological disorder in 1887 and in ensuing work by French psychiatrist Valentin Magnan, who described 3 acts of frottage in an 1890 study. It was popularized by German sexologist Richard von Krafft-Ebing in his book Psychopathia Sexualis, borrowing from Magnan's French terminology. DSM called it frottage, but changed it back to frotteurism and now use frotteuristic disorder. Yeah, so maybe he has this disorder where he just likes to rub himself on non-consenting people and then work with senior citizens in the daytime. Oh, and Graham Nystrom kept me on hold for 2 hours trying to figure out how to get out of having to talk to me at the board meeting that I had been invited to by Joan Herman. So that was charmingly awkward. He's sort of like the definition of patriarchy, but he puts a big clueless dunce hat on about his patriarchal duties to protect his friend's sexual assault. But I did achieve the fascinating information that Chris Duffy is no longer allowed to use the Coast Radio name to try to seduce women into being sexually assaulted by him, and he's not allowed to invite them to his DJ gig opportunity show or whatever. So he's not allowed to have guests due to his interest in sexually assaulting women on a premise of a Coast Radio gig. And so that was progress. It took me 2.5 hours to find that out. And Joan Herman kind of took in my feelings about Graham Nystrom's tendency to victim blame, but he's just some crummy dude up in Astoria, and I wouldn't touch that town with the 10-foot pole these days. And he was from Portland originally, or OPB or something. What does he know about sex harass? He's just like a technician.